Life is a long highway and I'm just doing the best I can.
Welcome back to the Straight Line to Success. So excited today to have Nick Eason with us. Nick, welcome to the show.
Man, glad for having me. Haven't seen you in a while, and just an honor and a pleasure to be able to sit and talk today.
Oh, yeah, man.
So I'm honored to be here.
That's right. You know, this is a success and leadership podcast, and, you know, we appreciate you sharing your story.
Yeah.
As human beings, that's the way we learn, right?
Absolutely.
Through stories.
Absolutely.
And so I know you have a story. I've been honored to share some of that time with you.
Yeah.
You know, you're one of my favorite clients ever, and I've certainly learned a lot behind the camera with you. And so today I'm sure you'll continue that education process, but not just for me, but we got the best audience here in the world.
Absolutely.
On the Straight Line to Success. So thank you for staying in with us. And let me just kick it off like this, because I think it really matters how you define success. So how does Nick Eason define success?
You know, I think my version of success is what it looks like for me is constantly trusting God and trusting His plan for my life, and continue to doubt in myself and surrender the outcome, and knowing that if God is before me, who can be against me? And so for me, as I look at success, man, it's just a constant, area of growth in my life. It's just like being a follower of Christ. You know, you're constantly growing. And so I think your success comes in a lot of different versions of your life. You just have to be able to see it. It's all about perspective, and everybody has a different perspective on success, but for me, it's really being able to surrender your feet and let God order your steps. That's what success looks like for me.
Yeah, well, I mean, you've certainly had a lot of success.
Absolutely.
And I think that we could unpack a little bit of that statement about success. I mean, and I think from what I hear you saying is it's not static. It's not a destination.
Nah, it's constant growth. Success is constant growth. I think you don't have success when you stop. When you come to a halt, that's when your success stops. But, you know, as they say, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And, you know, if you really count your blessings, there's success all around you. And you just have to have a godly perspective on that, what that looks like for you.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm successful because I don't quit. I continue to strive to be the best version of myself in all areas of my life, and constantly always growing, constantly always learning.
And when you talk about all areas of my life, do you divide that? Do you have 4 or 5
sections?
Yeah.
No, I just think it's just how I do everything in my life, and how I treat people. I truly believe that a true test of a man's character is how you treat people that can do nothing for you. And so those are the things that not only having accountability partners for that area of my life, but in all areas, just make sure I'm holding myself accountable and taking an audit of my life, because I truly believe that you are who you hang around, what you read, and what you listen to.
Yeah, well,
so you got to be in constant taking an audit, of your life. And so I try to make sure I do that and look in the mirror for not only for where I see myself at, but where God sees me, because that's what matters in the end.
Well, and we've known each other for a very long time, and
Absolutely.
I would say it's probably accurate statement to say that you were much different than
Absolutely.
you were when I met you.
Oh yeah.
And I would hope that I could say the same thing.
Absolutely.
And so again, it's been a great journey with you, and
Yes,
I want to
indeed.
journey back. I want to
Okay.
start back with Nick Eason. Where did Nick Eason? Tell me about early life for Nick. Where did you grow up?
Yeah, man. I'm from a small town, Lyons, Georgia. Population of about 4,500 people, maybe less. I may be giving us too much credit to have more people.
The big metropolis of Lyons, Georgia.
Toombs County. And, I was raised by my grandmother and grandfather. And my mom had me at a very young age, throughout senior and high school, and she continued on with her college education. And my grandparents, who were in ministry, continued to raise me and help her through very difficult times.
So give me those names.
Grandfather's name was James Holland, and my grandmother's name is Betty Holland.
Okay.
And my mom's name is Iris Wilcox.
Yeah.
H. Wilcox, yeah.
They were wonderful people.
They were awesome people. Yeah.
So ministers, a young mother helping raise their son, and she became an educator, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Went to Georgia Southern, got an undergraduate degree. Well, actually, no, she went to undergraduate school at Tift College, which is an all-girls school, in Forsyth, Georgia, and then she got a master's from Georgia Southern and became obviously a high school mathematics teacher and was a counselor as well and throughout the Toombs County system for about 28 years or so. Yeah,
that's incredible.
Yeah,
and so high school, did you play sports other than football?
Absolutely. I was, baseball, I was track, basketball, football, so four-sport athlete.
So what position in baseball?
Baseball, I was a catcher and first baseman.
Wow.
And that's the period of time I figured out I needed glasses because I got hit a couple times with first base. My cousin, Vince Faison, who was drafted by the Padres.
Okay.
I was throwing the ball from third base, and that didn't feel good to get hit in the body with one of the balls coming from him.
So you had a future major leaguer humming it at first place.
Absolutely, and I couldn't judge. The ball was kind of getting there, and then a couple times, I got hit, behind home plate, and I was like, man, something's not right. And so that's when I figured out my vision was a little skewed. So just went through some physical trauma to understand that. And, so I played baseball for, about a couple years. Played up until like my freshman year in high school. And then after that, I just kind of focused on track.
What was your events in track?
Track, I did the 400 just to be a part of something. I could run. I ran well enough for us to qualify in regions and state, but I wasn't.
It's like one lap, wide open.
Yeah, wide open. That's all I got. And so I did that. Obviously, shot put and discus and the big man stuff. Yeah. Of course, I was only about 210 pounds back then, but.
And what position were you playing on the football
field? I was a tight end. I tell people all the time I was actually an all-state tight end. I never really see a lot of statewide recognition for playing defense when I was in high school. And on the basketball court, I played, the 2, 3, 4, 5. I had good ball skills. I can bring it down the court.
Yeah.
I had my high school scoring record for quite some time, and my athletic director's son broke it about 5 years later. So I think I'm like 2 in my high school history in scoring points.
Wow, on the basketball
court. And I really thought I was going to be the next Michael Jordan and until I met LeBron James when I was playing for the Cleveland Browns, and then how mistaken I was about my own personal abilities. I had a very false sense of reality about myself to think that I was going to be playing pro basketball, but I had high dreams though.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, high dreams. I mean, you've had high success too. So basketball, you thought it was going to be baseball.
That was going to be my key.
Eyes were a little shaky.
Yeah.
Track was just to stay in shape.
That's exactly
basketball, you loved it.
Yeah, I had some offers to play in college to play basketball. It was one of the reasons why, I went, ended up becoming a Clemson Tiger was because they would give me an opportunity to walk on the basketball team.
Well, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. So tell us about that. I mean, a lot of guys, especially today, and you're in the middle of that. We'll get to that a little bit later, but they're trying to make that decision.
Right.
Where to go to college. You made that decision. How was that? How did you make that decision?
I think, I think it's important to know what you're looking for and kind of ignore the outside noise. In the recruiting process, there's a lot of outside noise. There's a lot of false narratives, and that's why you have to truly know, who you are and what you need. And I knew, what I needed in order to be successful. I know myself. I knew I was going to put in the work. I knew I was going to be self-motivated, and I knew I was going to embrace the challenge to go compete. I knew I was bringing that with me, and then I was looking for an environment where I can learn. And so I was looking for, my major. Obviously, ended up majoring in sociology, criminology, emphasis, and that was a very priority for me. My mom was an educator. My grandparents valued education as well. And then just, relationship with the coaches and being able to get developed. I tell people this all the time. I was not the young kid looking to go play pro ball. That was not my goal. My goal was to go to college, to get an education, to not be a burden on my grandparents and my mom. And that's what I focused on.
That was your motivation.
My motivation was to take a burden off of them and just to truly be the best version of myself and really get my degree. And that's what I wanted to do. That was my main focus of why I went to Clemson, and obviously just really had a great time on my official visit.
Now, who were those coaches that were recruiting you?
Tommy West and Rick Stockstill recruited
Okay.
me. Rick obviously went on to be the head coach at Middle Tennessee State, is now down at Florida State, and then Tommy West is retired and living his best life.
Yeah.
You still, talk to him on occasion. His son Turner West is coaching the NFL now, and knew him when he was a young ball boy.
Yeah.
And but they did a really good job of making me feel valued, and I'll never forget that. I found out that Coach Stockstill was actually keeping in contact with my mom for about 16 years after I was gone.
Oh, wow.
And I never knew that. He still called her and stayed in contact with her, which was huge. And he's always been a relationship guy, but that just goes to show me how genuine he was during the recruiting process.
Yeah, he wasn't putting on that.
No, he wasn't putting on the act. It was real. And he's recruited a lot of some of the best that's ever played at Clemson during this time.
Coming out of, not to interrupt you, but coming out of what was the name of your high school?
Toombs County High School. Yeah.
Toombs County High School. You were heavily recruited.
Yes.
Who else was in the running there?
It's Georgia Tech, North Carolina, Florida State. Do pretty much all the SEC schools, a lot of ACC schools, and many others.
Yeah.
I just don't remember. I know that my
you had them all coming at you.
I had them. I had the ton of mail, some of the mail that I still haven't opened. My uncle was cleaning out an old chest and found letters that I haven't even opened up from schools that I had back then. And but I felt that this was going to, Clemson would be home for me.
Yep.
And I had a really good feel on the visit. And I actually committed on my visit in January of 1997.
And that was your sophomore year?
That was my junior year. So
okay.
Spring of my junior year, I committed, going into my senior year. But I knew that's where I wanted to be, and I knew that, that's where God wanted me to be as well. Yeah. And it ended up being a great story. So
tell us about Clemson. You get to Clemson, you're heavily recruited, top heat, come to Clemson.
Yeah.
Did you continue to be top heat? Well, how was that?
I actually got in a fight my first practice at Clemson.
Tell us about that.
Oh man, it was against one of our senior offensive linemen, and I don't know, I played angry. I enjoy contact. I think it comes from being from a small town where there's nothing to do. So I wrestle with my uncle. Sometimes on occasion we'll wrestle with my grandma. She was actually a pretty good wrestler because she had a stroke.
Your grandma?
Yeah, my grandma used to wrestle.
That's awesome.
So she used to wrestle all the
Iris Wilcox, was that?
No, my grandma is Betty Holland.
Okay, Betty
My
Holland.
mama, she wasn't trying to. She was more of a pretty girl.
Not Iris. Your grandmother was Betty.
My grandma, yeah. She was the head honcho of our family, but she would wrestle, and she was strong too.
So would y'all start out in the fireman's carry or whatever?
Yeah, it was she was tough. And
that's great.
And so, but man, I just wasn't taking no jump.
Right.
But
so
I learned
you show up on Clemson first practice.
I'm yoked and ready to go. I'm taking over. And I knew that,
were you tight end or were you defensive end at this point?
I was playing defensive end.
Okay.
I came here to play defensive end.
Okay.
And I kind of saw the competition, and I was like, man, I'm going to take that dude's spot. I just pointed them out. I already knew who I was going to outwork, and that's always kind of been my motto, just outwork people. And I just, I knew my hunger was going to be more than his. And it ended up working out. I ended up redshirt freshman year, and I was me and a young receiver named Jordan Reams were the only two guys that traveled with the team.
Okay.
Back then, and but I learned a lot. It was a different time. I remember one time me and my roommate Bryant McNeil, who was late for practice, and Coach West made the entire team do 100 up downs, and we tried to avoid getting hazed. They were still hazing back then. Not going into too much of details about that, but we tried to avoid it for the longest that we could. And one day I was like, man, you know what? I'm not running. They're gonna have to beat me today. And so, but man, I really am so grateful for those times, because they really toughened me up really good and calloused me up.
Yeah.
But I was definitely fit for some of the veteran leadership that we had at the time, like Adrian Dingle, was no longer here, with Raheem Abdullah and Antoine Edwards and Donald Broomfield.
They helped you out.
Oh yeah, they really took me under their wings and just kind of showed me the ropes. Sometimes the ropes were not good ropes, but they really took care of me and looked after me when I was a freshman, and just, taught me how to work, taught me how to compete, but really taught me more about the game of football. And so I was really blessed because of that. And I had, Reggie Herring was my defensive coordinator, and then Brick Haley was my position coach. And then once I ate my way into the D-line room, because I came here as an outside linebacker, I ended up having Les Herring, who ended up becoming my position coach, because I went from 215. By the time I left Clemson, I was 305. So put on some weight over the course of 4 years, and I just kept my head down, just work really, really hard.
Now, they're going to give me a grief because I'm not going to, if I don't ask you a couple of follow-up questions.
100%.
But I want to ask you about this fight on day one. You don't have to tell me who it was with, but tell me about the fight.
I just think that, when you, back then, the senior leadership was going to test you. They were going to try to bully you in a sense, and I was not a person to be bullied whatsoever. And and I wasn't going to be with the pushing and the shoving after the play. I always tell my players as a coach now that what you allow, you encourage. And so I wasn't going to allow it. I was going to make sure they knew that you might get some freshmen out here, but I'm not going to be the one you will have a problem.
Okay, so he came and tried to what?
Yeah, he just tried to bully me. And that wasn't going to work.
And so what did you do?
I threw the first punch.
You threw the first punch?
1,000%.
Was it? Did y'all throw your helmets off, or were you boxing through the face
mask? He was
mask?
boxing through the face mask, but I wasn't stopping,
And what did they do? Did you get punished?
I think I'm pretty sure I got punished, but the guys around me, they like, okay, he's the one.
Yeah.
And it ended up, it worked out. So me and the guys squad, but we worked together, iron sharp as iron.
Yeah.
And it was no bad blood between me and him.
Right.
But he, I earned his respect too.
Yeah.
Like, wait a minute, this dude right here gonna fight.
That's awesome.
And so, but man, it was a good time, man. It was great times, a lot of hard work, a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of sticking to the plan. If I remember just having cases of muscle milk in my room and eating 6, grilled chicken breasts every day and about 4 potatoes. I was just trying to put weight on.
Wow.
And just getting bigger and stronger and do everything my strength coach at the time asked me to do, and I stuck to it, man, and I just got bigger and stronger faster every year.
Yeah, well, and so that's on the field, and of course off the field, on the field. But what about the classroom, Nick? You were studying criminal justice.
Correct. Yeah. I initially came to Clemson. I wanted to be a forensic science doctor.
And like what? Like what was
biology? I was going to major in biology, and so I was looking at the kind of advanced course I was going to have to take, and then immediately those coaches knew, like, dude, you're gonna have an opportunity to play at the next level, and so I immediately shifted my attention towards the criminology world, sociology, criminology, emphasis, mine in business administration.
Yeah. And
so I've always been attracted to the criminal justice system and forensics, FBI, Secret Service type of work. And I've always just been interested in that my entire life since I was a young kid. Of course, having one of my really good friends, grandfather owned a funeral home back in Tombs. So I've, not something, I don't want to say, oh, I enjoy that, but it's something that I've always seen as a service to the community.
Yeah.
I've always been somebody that just wanted to give back. And that's something kind of I was around growing up as a young kid. And so that's kind of where the forensic part come in at. Mm-hmm. And that's always been an interesting thing to me.
And you graduated with eligibility left. Were you the first Clemson player to graduate with eligibility?
Absolutely. Not intentionally. That was an accident.
How did that happen?
I tell people it was an accident. I went to the NFL, and the accident that I graduated in 2.5 years. I just really maxed out my semesters. It was not planned whatsoever. I just maxed out the semesters. I stayed here every summer because there was nothing back at home for me. Mm-hmm. And so I stayed here and just kept my head down. I remember being at Brackett Hall, which is where most of the sociology classes are at on campus, and just being in there all night, doing all-nighters, studying all night and not sleeping. And, man, just because I didn't max, you're talking about 17, 18 hours a semester. Yeah. And then just maxing out first and second summer sessions. And man, I was meeting my academic counselor, And they say, hey, you're going to graduate. And I'm like, when? And they like, in August. And it's like, you know, I'm going into my third year. I haven't even completed my third year. You know, I'm in halfway through my second year.
Yeah.
And I remember, this is a true story. I called my mom, and as you know, I can, you know, I like to have a good time, so I can be a little sarcastic, play around with my mom too. We always making jokes. So I was like, hey, you know, just letting you know I'm graduating in August. And she said, oh, okay then. Like, just kind of.
She thought you were pulling.
Thought I was totally
pulling
joking.
her leg. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so
I can see that.
August came. August came with practice, and so I called like the day before, and I was like, hey, you know, what time y'all getting tomorrow? And she's like, what are you talking about? And I was like, my graduation is tomorrow. And she's like, are you serious? And I was like, yeah, you thought I was joking. Well, you play so much. I didn't know you was for real. You like, you ain't even been to school like 3 years. I said, yeah, Mom. I said, I graduate tomorrow. I say, I got practice, but I'm graduating tomorrow.
Wow.
And so, man, she got a caravan of people and came up. I think it was about maybe 8 to 10 of them, my brother and sister. I ran across some old pictures of them, you know, of all of us together. And yeah, man, I graduated in 2.5 years and still had 2 years of eligibility remaining, and became the first student athlete in school history to do it. So,
that's what I was thinking. And so then you registered for graduate school.
Yeah.
What were you studying?
HR. Yeah, human resource development. I had 2 classes a week, and they were at night. And so I had a really light schedule to really focus on, you know, getting ready for my next career. And I actually had probably my best season, and then I tore my Achilles. And so ended up, that's kind of where I transitioned from defensive end to D tackle. I think after my first year, I came in at about 215 to 217, and after my first year, I was like 235. And so my freshman year, I started. After about 2 games, I got in. I never looked back at that point in time. I continued to start the rest of my time here, but we get ready to play Michael Vick in the Gator Bowl. I think it's about 2001. Man, I was at a walkthrough practice and snapped my Achilles. And I went from 235, 240 to 260 by the time I came back in the spring. And so I've always had broad shoulders, but I just continued to gain weight. And we had lost 5 seniors. We lost 5 interior defensive tackles that year. And so it's like, you know, I was strong enough. I was a strength All-American. And so we're going to move you inside and think it'll be a good move for you. Obviously, coming off the Achilles, not as fast as I was. And then plus I put the weight on. Yeah. And so a combination of both, man, I count it all joy. I look back and consider that a success story, as you mentioned earlier. Yeah. So tearing my Achilles was a success story.
That was actually good for you.
100%. Success is all about perspective. As I look back on it now, and you know, man, the rest is history. But I remember having so much success. You know, they're writing articles, and I'm all ACC, I'm all the things, and I lead the team as this. I was voted, you know, defensive MVP. I'm a strength All-American. And then when I remember injuring my Achilles, and I saw an article. It says Eason starstruck. Because I, you know, came back off my Achilles and my numbers were not where they were. And I remember somebody was telling me bad news sales, and somebody wrote an article said Eason is starstruck, and I'll never forget that. But I also remember during that period of time that, you know, my ego kind of kicked in too, that I was the guy, I was the man, and I remember drifting away from God, you know, and I go back to that time where I just like, man, I really, you know, lost focus of my spirituality and really forgot to respect the blessing that God had given me, and got so caught up in the hype of me and my name, etc. And not that I didn't pray, but God became removed, and he was not really my focal point. And that's how he got my attention. As well as, you know, I talk about, you know, some kind of adversity sometimes that I experienced in college. I lost my roommate, Brandon Rouse, who we had just signed a lease at the time, and he had a heart attack at the movie theater in Clemson. He was 19 years old, and I'll never forget that night, that moment, just, you know, experiencing that. And I still remember his services like it was yesterday, and what that felt like in the moment. And in the moment, I was asking myself, like, well, what if that was me? You know, would I be going to heaven? And I really couldn't answer that with the way I was living at the time. And so that really did something to me. And so that created some growth for me spiritually. Yeah. Experiencing that, because I grew up in a family where, and it's not that I just really don't, you know, think that God couldn't take me at any point in time back then. But
Sure.
most of my family, I had a great-great-grandmother that was 106 when she passed. My great-grandmother lived to be 90-something. I got all these people in my family living old, so in my mind I was like, well, I'm going to live to be a long time.
Yeah.
I'm going to live a long time. And, man, it was just, that was eye-opening for me as a young 18-year-old, experiencing that. And so it really, changed my perspective on really staying connected to God. Yeah.
So you had the issue when you were 18, and
Yeah.
then you get hurt. How old
Yeah.
were you when you hurt your Achilles?
I think I was it's probably 19 the next
Okay.
year.
Gotcha.
Just God was just, man, like, hey.
Were you young when you got to Clemson?
I was, I just turned 18. I was
Okay.
17. Yeah.
17.
Yeah, I was a young freshman, and man, but I experienced a lot of adversity throughout my life, and I started losing people in my family and just going through things, and it was a lot, but just continue to stay focused. And my grandparents always told me to just keep God first, and so easier said than done, though.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. So just in terms of your college and you found success, I think I hear some of the things, but what do you advise young people that are going to college or that are in college playing football like you that maybe want to go to the next level? What is your advice?
I would say, some of the things I believe in, and I talk to my players about this probably on a daily basis as a leader. You can't have $1 million dream with a minimum wage work ethic. There are so many $1 million dreams out there. These kids, they want all these things, but their daily decisions and daily habits don't line up with what they want.
And I've heard you talk about your habits.
Absolutely.
I mean, you're staying up all day,
Yeah.
all night, studying,
Yeah.
working out, eating, focused.
So you can have all the dreams and you can have all the goals in the world, but if your daily decisions and daily habits don't line up with what you're trying to achieve, then it's just talk.
Yeah.
And I've had to apply that in my own life, and that's one. So don't get outworked. Two is, trust takes years to build, seconds to break, and forever to repair. And that's one thing that I've learned, even from my own experience, where my integrity was compromised, but man, just treat people right and just live a life of integrity and honesty, and then and just be real with people. That's two. And then the last thing is, if you hang out with chickens, you're gonna cluck. If you hang out with eagles, you're gonna fly. And so just really surrounding yourself with people that either where you want to go or going where you're trying to get.
Yeah.
And that matters. And that's why I mentioned earlier about you have to really take your audit of your life. You are who you hang around, you are what you listen to, you are what you read. And so if to any young athlete, if you're trying to go play college ball, well, talk to people that's going to help you get there. Or surround yourself around people that's trying to get where you're trying to go.
Yeah.
And everybody's like an elevator. They either going to take you up or you're going to take you down. And it's your choice, and so there's, it's easy to, it's easy to dodge your responsibilities, but you'll never dodge the consequences of dodging your responsibilities.
Yeah.
That's good. And so, those are things I kind of try to live my life by, and I try to live by the example, because my philosophy is, I try to provide servant leadership. My goal is to serve the people that I'm around, not just my players, but everybody that I come in contact with, make goals clear, find out, let you know what my goals are and find out what your goals are. And let's see if we can, match each other's energy and strive to do whatever it takes to help people win.
Yeah.
My philosophy doesn't say players. It doesn't say student athlete. It just says people.
Well, I appreciate you helping us win today, Nick. And, when I met you, I may have mentioned this to you, but if I didn't mention it to you, I know I told some other people. I mean, you were one of the sharpest, smartest athletes that I'd ever been around.
Yeah.
I mean, there's something different about you.
Yeah,
Nick
I
Eason.
wish I would have applied some of the knowledge to my own life. I think I've always had a lot of wisdom because I grew up around, I was raised with my grandparents.
Yeah.
I grew up around a lot of people with a lot of wisdom.
Yeah.
But I don't always apply that wisdom. It's like having a weight room outside my office, but I get on the scale, I'm 403 pounds. Like, oh boy, how does that happen? But it happened to me. And so now, as I've gotten older, I look back like, man, if I can't say if I knew then, but I didn't execute what I knew.
Yeah.
And
knowing and action are two different things.
1,000%. And so,
and how much do you weigh now?
Yeah, probably 35.
235 from 400 to 235.
Man.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a revolution, and it certainly comes out now.
Yeah.
I want to talk about. you know, the NFL,
man.
draft. I was part of that. You had ESPN, Hey Rookie,
at
your house.
What a... I don't know if it's... I'm not going to say miserable, but that was a success moment, right? We talking about defining success.
Yeah.
And for me...
You're projected to be a first-round draft pick.
Projected to be a first-round draft
I remember you were
pick.
at the New York Giants, I think, a week before the draft.
I literally... You brought this up. I was in... Florida this past week doing some professional development. I was with Willie Simmons, who was my quarterback.
Yeah, you're a shot guy.
And in walked William Joseph at a restaurant we was at.
How about that?
Who was on that trip to the Giants with me the week before the draft.
How about that?
And he didn't recognize us because I lost so much weight.
Yep.
And we just talked about our visit, etc. But I just literally ran into him a couple weeks ago.
So, you know, again, talking about the NFL,
right.
You know, we're working together. You're about to get drafted.
Right.
You know, Tiger by the tail, got ESPN down at you're in Lyons County, Georgia, with your family. Toombs County, excuse me.
And then you got Hey Rookie, welcome to the NFL.
Yeah, Hey Rookie.
Set up in the house.
I'm up in New York.
Yeah, you got lights, camera, action. I got my every phone call on national TV.
Oh yeah, every call.
That was every call, and I'm doing a Hey Rookie, welcome to the NFL. As I look back, I remember it's the first season of this, right?
Yeah.
And so they follow you from draft through your last preseason game of the year, and so I'm on like basically a TV show.
Yeah.
And man, I did not want to do it. At the time, I was like, I wanted to be in Clemson by myself.
Yeah.
I didn't want. I was going to have something maybe afterwards for my family. My mom was like, no, Nick. Like, it'll be really good, you know, blah, blah, blah. And so as I look back on it, you never know the value of a moment till it becomes a memory. And, you know, not knowing that down the road my mom was going to be, you know, going to be with the Lord at age 50, you know, I'm glad I gave her that moment.
Yes.
And my grandparents, too, and everybody else that was present to be able to witness that. But that was a miserable day for me.
Miserable day. It was a stressful day for us. I mean, we you know, I got Rod and them calling me, hey, what's going on up there? What's going on? And I didn't know. And so the next day, this is...
Keep in mind, the next day, the film crew did not expect to have to spend the night. They thought I was going to at least go the first day.
Right.
And they were not prepared. And
so
they
the
were
first 3 rounds come and go.
And they're going. Like,
you're still on the board.
I'm still on the board. I'm sitting in my living room about this.
Sweating 30-weight motor oil.
And I got everybody looking. My coach is looking. My family's looking at me.
Damn agents you hired.
Yeah. Agents in the background. And I'm like, and so the camera guy, he doesn't make it any better. The crew there from NFL Network goes, well, I guess we're spending the night.
So you spend the night. Did you get any sleep that night?
No. I was just like
tossing and turning. Thinking,
I didn't sleep, and I just was like, I knew I shouldn't have did this show in the moment.
Yeah.
You know, I look back on it now. I'm grateful for it.
Yeah.
It was a blessing.
Yeah.
I mean, and then still to have my name called.
Let's talk about that. The next day.
Yeah.
4th round.
Yeah.
It was pretty early in the 4th round.
It was early. I was like the 2nd or 3rd pick in the 4th round.
And so what was that like, hearing your name called?
Man, it was
Denver Broncos.
Yeah, I think I missed it. I saw my name went by on the ticker. I never saw it, and then I got the phone call, and I remember it was Jacob Burning, who actually I ended up coaching behind. He was the defensive line coach of the Bengals, and I ended up coaching behind him. But he was my position coach, and he was like, hey, you know, you ready to be a Denver Bronco? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was just I just didn't care where I was going. I was just ready to play. And then I was pissed too. I had a chip on my shoulder because I'm like, man, I'm thinking about all the teams that passed me up in the first 3 rounds.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, I knew that there were some concerns. I tore my Achilles, and then I had some issues on my other Achilles from the first one.
Well, you know, I flew out there to, you know, we negotiated. It was the flat rookie pool that year. I'll spare everybody all of that, but that was interesting.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I've got Ted Sundquist, the GM we had talked about, hey, where is going to be acceptable, what's great, what's good, and he was in the over good to close to great, but he wouldn't put the dadgum number on the table. And I slapped my hand on the door. I said, that's what I'm talking about. You're over here talking about it, but you need to put the number on the table.
Yeah.
And so
Show me the money.
He finally put the number on the table.
Tom
We flew
Cruise.
out that night. We come to Denver at the facility. We're signing, and that's what Ted told me. He said, "Look, man, we're so excited." And of course, Bryant McNeil got
picks later, a few picks later,
to the same team.
Yeah.
And but he said, we saw that. I remember you talking about the combine, just how much they prodded and looked at you and everything.
Man,
but
just the Achilles, and I mean,
it was that MRI. That was what he said. He said we saw on the the MRI.
There were some issues, and I needed probably that year. I ended up, just kind of still get my body together. But what had happened, I had placed so much emphasis on protecting my right Achilles, I stressed my left Achilles out. And as I look back on it now, nowadays with the due diligence that the NFL teams do, I'm just blessed to even got drafted.
Yeah.
Let alone played as long as I did. And man, what a journey, what a blessing for me to have that moment that day.
Well, it was a great day. It was exciting.
Yeah.
I know it wasn't what you wanted, but it worked out well. I mean, you had an incredible NFL career.
Yeah.
And Nick, this is pretty much the time we have for this first show. Can you stick around and do one more show with us?
Absolutely,
one more section?
Man. I would love to.
All right. Well, thank you for staying in here with the Straight Line to Success. We'll be back for our next episode with Nick Eason, and we're going to finish this conversation. We're going to talk about his NFL career, which was incredible, and then his coaching career, and I guess what's next, his music.
Yep.
So y'all tune in next time for the Straight Line to Success.
Doing the best they can.
Thank you for listening to The Straight Line to Success. Copyright 2026 Wyatt Sports and Entertainment, LLC. All rights reserved. Visit www.tslts.com and join the TSLTS Insider for exclusive content and updates.
Highway and we roll. We're doing the best we can. Everybody do your best. Come on, come on. Do your best. Do your best. The best you can.